We have a beautiful constitution. We have institutions, but racism persists together with many other prejudices and practices that undermine the notion of freedom, that subtract from what we call ourselves as a democratic society. So, and so to understand, I think racism is one in the family of problems we must confront. And one of those problems is violence against women and children. We have been doing some work to understand the level of violence perpetrated against women in a free and democratic society undermines the whole notion of freedom. We've been doing some work, some research with institutions to understand whether we are tackling the institutional and structural foundations of violence against women and children. So on an occasion like this, as we talk about racism, we should also remember that patriarchy is deep. Even with the opportunities that our democracy has provided to many women, that includes investments we're making in providing women with services that we know 22 years ago they wouldn't have had. But the level of patriarchy is deep and is violent, extremely violent. We, together with remembering that as we deal with racism, we have that we also are confronting another problem, xenophobia. That is also violence and prejudices, discrimination that certainly taking violent forms, very deep. And we know that our forebears would be turning in their graves to think that in a country for which they sacrificed everything, that we have the depth and the level of xenophobia we have that makes South Africa, if you go anywhere in the continent and you introduce yourself, Chief Rabbi, from South Africa, the first thing is, oh, you guys are very xenophobic. Or what is happening in your country? There is another thing we must also deal with, violence against the LGBTI community, the other. It's violent. It's not just discrimination, it's not just prejudice that you are gay, you are lesbian, but it is also violent. People are killed. We know of beautiful souls in our province killed for being who they are. That again undermines the notion of freedom and democracy. Those experiencing racism every day, whether it's in the church, whether it's in the workplace, or whether it's in the education system, including in places that are fairly safe spaces, that are supposed to be safe spaces, are unfree. So as long as we have racism, we must say that the struggle continues. So we can't call ourselves a free people when there are millions of our people who are discriminated against on the basis. So the network, the anti-racism network, comes at the right time, initiated by organizations, supported by civil society, when we have to talk as a country. And you know, once you have a conversation and someone says, I'm not racist, but you must know that there's a problem there. I'm not xenophobic, but I'm not, you know, I respect women, but, you know, I'm not sexist. I'm not. So So one of the things I saw, Sean, you were going through there about the notion of becoming, it's a very important thing, because we think by virtue of having the beautiful constitution, the elections, the first elections, 1994, and the subsequent elections, we have not become. We have not become, and it's not helpful to deny. And the way to solve a problem is not by starting, I'm not this, but. So all the aspects of all those problems are there in us. And if we want to become, as part of transforming our society, as part of building a more cohesive society, a more cohesive South Africa, a more united South Africa, a non-racial South Africa, a non-sexist South Africa, a free and prosperous South Africa where all of us are equal, we've got to take responsibility for addressing all those multiple problems that are different dimensions of our unfreedom in a free society.